So today, obviously, way more things are doable than 50 years ago because of the chemistry, the techniques, the materials changed, and we have, bigger spectrum of materials to choose from. But still, there are challenges. As long as they understand that their expectations can be met or something similar but needs to be modified a little bit, then we're good.
Hello, Tom Lavecchia here with the latest edition of the New Theory podcast. Today, we have a very special show. We have a return guest here. We have a new guest of the New Theory family. We're going to be discussing an amazing project with swim pools here in New Jersey and Danilo Bonazzo, Art Mosaics. But first, I want to welcome back Danilo Bonazzo. Welcome to New Theory podcast. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me back.
His second show that we did with Steve, first show was great, but the second show we did with Steve Griggs, shout out to Steve, did fantastic. So we got a lot of messages that they liked that you were on. Love your artistry, love your work.
Thank you.
So people wanted you back on, so I'm happy to have you.
Yep. Happy to be here.
So we're here with Casey, who is a beautiful high-end pool fabricator. I mean, backyards, the whole bit. I mean, you do some really nice work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I was happy to have you. So we'll jump right in. I want to, I know people know who you are. For the newer people that watch a podcast, for people that are watching, give us a little bit about your background and how you kind of first entered the world of like construction, high-end pools, and that kind of stuff.
So I was born and raised in Ravenna, Italy. Made my way into the world of construction and my hobby of mosaic, which I was able, fortunately, to turn into my business. I create and install mosaics, mostly in swimming pools, not exclusively, but that's my preferred choice, to collaborate with pool builders and architects and being able to apply my craft into the world of the swimming pools. I just like the idea of having someone having fun, having a party with family and friends and having a blast in using one of the art pieces that I created and having fun with it. So over the years, I've been traveling a lot all over the world, and I ended up here in the United States, in New York first.
In New Jersey, of all places.
And then moved to New Jersey.
Kind of went really great until the end. Just kidding. No, we love to have you in New Jersey, and the fact that you're here speaks volume. And it's also a great hub. You've got to jump on Newark Airport, anywhere else in the world, your vicinity of New York City. So I assume that works well. Casey, tell us about yourself.
I've been doing pools for about 15 years. I started out with zero experience whatsoever, had a construction background, and then ended up working for a pool company, learned my way through it pretty quick, started to run that company, then business being business, left, went on my own, opened my own business, and here we are a number of years later, still building, and we've progressed on now. We do a lot of full backyards. So not just the swimming pools, we work with other people, we get things done. We are a full design build firm at this point, which is kind of where I wanted to go with it and finally got it to where it needs to be.
Yeah, as Manny puts a B-roll through, I think you're being a little humble here. You do some really nice high-end work. If you're working with Danilo, who's one of the biggest mosaic artists in the world, you're doing some stuff right. Just before we jump in, how did you make that leap? Because you weren't a traditional pool guy, and then you got into
not
it.
at all.
And then you started doing pools, but then you got into that high end. How did that work?
So the company that I actually started out working for, again, zero knowledge of how pools worked, anything like that, just had a good understanding of construction and how to build. So from there, like I said, I learned what I needed to, and I took to it pretty quick. And as we got moving, the company that I was working for at the time was working in some very high-end neighborhoods, things like that. I developed a number of relationships. I did not, builders, designers, architects, you name it. And when I left the company that I was at and went out on my own, I started to get some phone calls asking, hey, I'm looking for so-and-so. And I was like, sorry, guys, I have nothing to do with them anymore. Well, what are you doing? Well, I have my own pool company. And they're like, can I send you some plans? And, so we did did a couple jobs, early on, and without those connections, probably wouldn't have gotten to where we are, truthfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, it allowed us to get kind of right into that market from the jump, being that I already had the experience building in that market as it was.
Yeah.
Now, instead of just being the guy that took it from A to Z, I was now selling it and running it, all on my own instead of for somebody else. So we got into that market. We were able to hold it and keep things progressing forward.
One thing's amazing is, and where Danilo was born, Ravenna, Italy is the capital for mosaics, the heart of the Byzantine Empire. And it's amazing you guys were born on two separate continents, kind of two different tracks, trades, if you will, and then got together and collaborated. Danilo, can you tell us about like from the beginning, how did you guys first get introduced?
Well, I was called by the client. Their intention was they actually built, this beautiful addition to the house to contain the swimming pool. They wanted an indoor swimming pool. Beautiful project, 10 minutes away from my home, so here in New Jersey. And the client called me saying, listen, we have this project. We are interested in creating something super high-end, very luxury-oriented. We are thinking about eventually mosaics in the swimming pool. We did a little bit of research. We found you, and, weirdly so, you're close to home. So they asked me if I was interested. I said, absolutely. So I jumped on the same day. I was actually here. I just came back from, I don't remember at that time where I was, but I was somewhere in Europe doing a project, just finished, came back. And then the day after, or 2 days after, I just landed here. They called me. So I was pretty free that day. I just went over there with some samples. We started talking, and there was a little bit of back and forth, pricing, designing wise. But once they started seeing what I was about thinking of creating for them, they really liked it. And then at the end, we decided to make it happen. Then they introduced me to Casey. In the meanwhile, he started working in the project, in the pool. So we met on site.
Oh, wow.
And we clicked right away, pretty much. There was an understanding on how to communicate and how to handle the project right away. I had my demands about how to handle things, and he understood that it was essential for him to make the best of what he could do, considering the situation, to meet my demands. And I got right away that he was a person that really gave value to what I was bringing to the table. So there were not many hiccups, just, a couple things that happen in a job site, but communication is key. Communication is key. And it was always receptive, and we collaborated in solving every single issues that arise, mostly, if not completely, due to a previous work that was done by somebody else, and Casey took over. So there was some modification that needed to be done to make sure that the project will actually work properly. But it was pretty much smooth sailing, and I really like the collaboration. And here we are today talking about how this project worked, but also generally speaking, how a project like this could be happening.
Yeah. Question though. Mm-hmm. You're from New Jersey originally?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You being a Jersey guy, you're not successful. You're playing in the big leagues, right? You land this nice scope of work, right? You mentioned earlier, I'm a design, build firm.
Correct.
So you're excited.
Yeah, always.
But now they're bringing in somebody to kind of design a portion. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Were you at first like, hey, we can design that and maybe do it? Or were you like, no, that's not my wheelhouse, and you were excited to see Danilo?
Not by any means. I mean, as Danilo said, just like myself, there was other players involved.
Yeah.
I had spoken with another, person they were talking to as well. I spoke with Danilo. He landed the job. It was like Danilo said, it was very easy.
Yeah.
Communication is key. Very easy to work together as long as you're open and you communicate and you get through things. There's no problems. But, you it's easy enough to move through and just keep going. I have my part, he has his part. As long as we can do them together, it's easy enough to move through. And then at first too, the funny part is they didn't tell me who it was that they were speaking to locally. As he mentioned, it's local to him.
Yeah.
I had heard of the other individual that was, one of the potential, to do the job. And it wasn't for a little while until probably right about when we met, or just about like a day or two before we met, when the homeowner said, "Oh yeah, you're going to meet with Danilo, the tile guy." And I was like, "Danilo?" I'm like, "I know that name." I'm like, "Why do I know this?"
I like
name?
how he's a world-renowned artist, and he's like the tile guy.
And it was one of those things. It was like, wait, why didn't you just tell me that's who it was? And she, because the whole time she was, the clients were back and forth of who to use, and this guy's local, blah blah blah. And I'm thinking to myself, it's going to be like some random tile guy who tiles bathroom showers or something like that. And then she tells me who it is, and I was like, okay, great. Phenomenal. Let's do this, that kind of thing. So it was definitely, a much better atmosphere than I had anticipated off the get-go.
Ooh, chills. The fact that you guys collaborated so well, in my younger years, I was on construction sites. That collaboration is not easy, right? So when you guys did have some conflict or mild conflict, you obviously got through it and resolved it. How did you guys resolve conflict when you came to it?
Well, there was not really conflict. There was like understanding, okay, there's an issue.
Yep.
What's the issue? Well, there's some leaks here and there. Like, okay, what causes these leaks? And then he was like, well, I did an inspection in the back, and whoever built that wall did not, sealed it properly. It's like, okay, so let's figure out a way to seal it properly. I'm bringing some of my material, you bring some of yours. Let's identify exactly where the issue is. We have to stop, the advancement of my part for 3-4 days until we fix that thing. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Yeah. It's okay. I mean, the ultimate goal is to have a successful project in any kind of form. So whatever it takes to make it happen, let's do it. How do we just sat down and was like, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to take over? What do you want me to take over? Let's have synergy. Let's together collaborate. You do up to this. From this point and on, I'll take over and I finish the rest. Then we test it. Everything checked out. Everything was fine. Okay, we can keep going. Let's do it. That's as simple as that. There's no need to blame one or the other or the previous guy. Like, let's stick to the facts. There's a leak. Okay, how do we solve it? Let's make a plan. Let's follow the plan. If everything, is correct, it should work. In fact, it did, and we were all happy. That's pretty much the easy way to go and the correct way to go. I don't see any other way. When a problem happens, which it will, like, let's keep in mind, every one of these projects is unique in its form and its kind. It's not a cookie cutter thing. Correct. It's not a factory made piece that has been, replicated thousands of times. So you test the first 3-4 batches and then everything checks out. The other one exactly the same, so they're not going to fail. No, every single one of these projects is unique and it's custom made, custom tailor made for the project. So there's always some structural, engineering, architectural changes that needs to be done along the way. It's all a matter of how you face the issues that can come up. It's just as simple as that. So as long as there's synergy and collaboration, you'll find a way to make things work. Maybe sometimes something needs to be modified a little bit. Okay. That's one of the
that's construction.
The most important thing. Yeah. That's the construction field. One of the most important thing, especially in a project like this, which is very particular and, high-end, complicated, call it the way you want, is set up the expectations to the client right out of the bat. Like, let's make sure that the client understands that certain things are possible, certain others are not, or maybe they are, but some things need to be modified, which means more time, more work, more labor, more materials, more money. And, the client needs to have a little bit of an opening that maybe there's an initial idea of what the project will look like, but maybe along the way we need to modify a little bit because some things come up that were not expected. Something in the original structure could be different that we were told. Yeah. It's like, there's like a certain kind of load that, we thought that we had, and then the structure doesn't permit that load. So, okay, that means that we probably have to modify the bottom so the swimming pool holds a little less gallons of water and weighs a little less. Maybe that's one of the cases. Or maybe one wall needs to be moved out a little bit. He needed to add an extra step from the original part because the calculation were not made correctly, so the steps will be too tall. And, one thing if you are 20 years old, another one is if you are 60, not getting any younger, that means that in 5-6 years, if those steps are too tall, you're going to have, you're going to struggle walking in and out of the pool. So maybe, we can start thinking about adding an extra step. So every single step will be smaller and easier on your back and on your legs. So all these things need to be taken in consideration. That could be a little bit of modification from the original thought or the original build. As long as the client understands that, that's not an issue, but actually could come up to be even better than they originally planned. Like in this case, hopefully they understood that, we're going to have an extra step and it's going to look beautiful.
Nice. I once heard without vision, without vision, you can't reach a decision. So you need to see what the vision is first before moving forward. And your guys' vision and for your collaboration and in general, Casey, how would you describe your shared vision behind your partnership, this partnership, and then what do you want homeowners or clients to know when working with both of you?
Well, Danilo really hit it on the head. I mean, the conflict is never really between guys like us. Yeah. It typically comes from the indecisions or the slow or lack of decisions from the client. And that's one thing that we press on big time is decisions need to be made because once we get moving, any change, as Danilo said, it's more time, it's more labor, it's more money, it's everything. Everything adds up. So in a situation like the project we're discussing here, I mean, there was change after change. And the constant kept being, well, we're supposed to be done by now. We're supposed to be done by now. And you got to, like Danilo said, you have to keep expectations in line. And when you run into problems, you just have to hit them and head on. Yeah. You don't start pointing fingers. You don't start moving towards anything else. Like Danilo said, you figure it out, you get it done, and you keep moving. And as long as you keep expectation in place, it really tends to be a pretty easy job as long as expectations are met. But it's, it can get rough, but it's never really a problem in that aspect of things. I mean, the working with Danilo, trying to get the things done, as he said, there's a process. I have to do A, B, C, D. He has to come in and do, E, F, G. Then I got to come back to do some more, and then he's got it. And then if there's any issues in between, we just have a conversation, we get it done. And it's just keeping the customer's expectations on point. That's the biggest thing.
So in terms of execution of the vision, can you quickly walk us through your collaborative process from initial client consultation to project completion? And again, you mentioned A, B, and C. How do you divide responsibilities?
Sure. I mean, our responsibility is to bring forth a structure for Danilo to do what he needs to do. That structure has to be strong, it has to be watertight, and it has to be ready to go as best as possible to keep his work to a minimum. As we discussed, there's changes made. It is what it is. But I mean, as far as the collaboration goes, it's exactly that. It's follow the process. As long as you can follow that process and you have the oversight that's needed, as well as the attention to detail, and that's the big thing is attention to detail. And as long as you can lock in those details, you keep everything to a nice minimum, as far as issues go, and the process just keeps moving between us. And the collaboration part of it, he comes in, he does his sit down with the customer, they go over the colors, the designs, patterns, this, that, whatever it is that they want. He goes and makes all this beautiful mosaic that he does, brings it back, does all of his prep, gets it installed. And then, like I said, we come back in, we have other things to do around it. As he mentioned in this project, it wasn't an easy project in a sense of this was an indoor swimming pool. And it wasn't just indoors in a sense of there was dirt and everything else around the pool on the bottom side of it. This pool had open hallways and basement space around it completely. So when he was saying before how if there was any leak or any issues within the structure, it had to be addressed because that water will now go down into this basement where they had storage. And you can't be having water constantly leaking into there.
Correct.
But as he mentioned before, with this, individual project, it was, this is what we want. As we started, it changed. And then it wasn't just small changes. It was the whole structure changed. So we had to quick jump in, help them out, figure out how do we make it now fit what you're looking for, but still put it in play for where when Danilo gets there, it's as, close as possible. He comes in, goes over everything, measures this, that. Casey, I need you to adjust this for me here. Can you add this there? No problem. We get it done. He comes back, preps, does his installs. We come back and we finish up everything else around it.
Yeah.
So one of the most important things in an ideal world, which it rarely happens, but in an ideal world, that's actually a suggestion for a potential client that is looking at this, takes a look at this podcast and is interested, like, you know what, I would like something like that. Ideally, gets in touch with me and Casey, anyway, the pool builder. We sit down all together because, and again, before even start exactly talking about the shapes of the pool and everything else, ideally, we could just all have a conversation, trying to understand what the client likes, and then come up with a plan, because my mosaics are going to be the finishing touch, right? But so many times, I create the design based on the shape of the pool. So deciding what kind of shape the pool is, how many steps, the shape of the steps, round, squared, jacuzzi, not jacuzzi, pool cover, no pool cover, they can all affect, the shape and the design of the mosaic. So practically, if we can all decide and collaborate and understanding what the final design wants to look like, then starting peeling the layers back until we get to his part, and then he designs the structure of the pool, which I have no part on. I can give suggestion. I can maybe have a vision and an idea, and I bring it to the table to the client and to him. But then ultimately he designs that. Then I designs the finishing. So pretty much tailor make the suit. But he's the one who creates the body. Then I eventually modify it. If I have to modify little things here and there, make it a little smoother, a little straight, bump up here or there. But those are minor changes. The main structure is made by him, so it's his design as well. But again, having a collaboration and knowing exactly where we want to land as the project is finished, it's important so we can start running it back until we put on paper exactly what we want to build. And again, if then there's some modifications to be done, we will address them later. But at least having a clear understanding of where we're going, how I'm making my things, my designing, my mosaics based on the shape and the sizes of the pools. So then there's a clear vision, that we both have, that we both understand where we're going. Because otherwise, it's creating more challenges. Like if the client is just collaborating with me and is telling me, okay, that's what we're going to create, and then the client collaborates with him and they're creating their own thing, most of the time, the two things are not going to match. No. They're not going to work together. So that's not an ideal situation. The ideal situation is really sitting down all together and make a plan that will satisfy the client, but also the technical issues that we have and we're facing. Because let's be honest, not everything is possible. There are challenges, many different ones. It's an indoor pool. It's an outdoor pool. It's on a roof of a building, or it's on a cliff. Like the situations are so varied, so different, and what kind of background or underground we have that we are digging the hole in. Is it rocks? Is it all muddy? Is it what are we working with? So we need an understanding of every single thing that we're facing and then come up with the right plan. And that can happen only if we all collaborate together and everything is clear on all sides. That's the ideal world.
It is. I mean, just to touch on what Danilo is saying too, is even from just the pool builder's perspective, what he said about collaborating to make sure that the details are there. He and I see eye to eye on a lot of details. Something as small as entry and exit steps in and out of a swimming pool. As Danilo mentioned before, making them certain sizes because you want to make it so everyone can comfortably move within, getting in, get out, all that kind of stuff. Not just this pool we're discussing, but any and every pool that I build, I will never exceed a certain measurement on my step risers for that reason. It's the same as in the deep end of the swimming pool. A lot of times now, especially these high-end concrete pools that we're building, you don't see ladders and rails. There's typically a bench, correct. And then, a lot of guys will just leave it. A lot of times, everyone we do, unless we are purposely told not to for whatever reason, it's the same thing. Even with this job, speaking with the customer and the client, listen, we're not getting any younger. You're going to have a bench that's roughly 2 feet underwater. Correct. For you, you're going to have to now sit on your butt, spin around, kind of crawl over and stand up to get out of the pool. Are you going to want to do that? No. Yeah. So we have to figure out ways to make it easier for the customer. And it's not just elderly, it's also children. Yeah. You got to think things for safety as well. And yes, aesthetics are everything. Yeah. It makes or breaks a project 100%, but you have to be able to explain the details.
The functionality.
Exactly. There's a function as well as aesthetics. So if you're not able to do both, and listen, some companies, they just don't care. They want to get in, as Danilo said, they just get in, they get out, they go by what industry standards are or what codes say they can do, which there's no thought in that. You have to be thinking the next step. And that's exactly how collaboration with he and I would work is sit down, figure out that look they're looking for, and then back it up because it now needs to be built in order to accommodate him.
Makes sense. How many tiles was that roughly?
I think I estimated around 375,000.
So it doesn't come in like that. When it comes in, I guess you.
Well, I created sheets.
Yeah.
I created sheets.
But how big can a sheet be?
Well, it depends. In this specific project, they were roughly 1 square foot, a little less.
As a construction guy, you got to that's got to be.
Oh, I appreciate every little bit of what he does. Truthfully,
I didn't believe him when I first met him. He's the one who lays the tiles, so it's not
No, it's not someone else coming in and this, that. No. It's Danilo on his hands and knees, sweating away, getting every tile down there.
Every single tile.
That's amazing.
Which I appreciate. Honestly, as a pool guy, I do appreciate it because I feel like I'm one of the few at this point that's not just pointing fingers at people that do this. Like my guys, they have a mutual respect.
Correct.
Because they know I'll do whatever I have to.
Yeah.
And they know that, in all honesty, I'd rather be out digging in the dirt, getting dirty every day than I would going to customer meetings and client meetings and things like that. That's just, listen, it's part of the job.
Yeah.
But the fun part is being out there getting dirty.
Exactly.
It really is.
Yeah. What does the ideal client look like to you?
There's really no one particular ideal client. Everyone has their own individual needs, their own individual wants. Yeah. It's trying to make it work for that individual. And when I say their needs, you have your personal wants and needs, but then you have environmental capabilities and possibilities as well. Somebody might have a very tiny piece of property, but they know they want this, and it's how do we make it work? So it's not necessarily there's that one type of client. It's how do we make each individual job its own individual job for that individual? Because again, a lot of other types of companies, depending on the type of construction, things like that, it's just, here's a brochure, pick from A, B, C, and D, and here you go. Yeah. That kind of thing, where that's not how we function as a company. It's just not the way we do it. I am a normal person. I have my family. I have my kids. You've got a backyard. You want to maximize space and function. You don't want to just come in and just drop something right in the middle of the yard and say, here you go, enjoy, see you later, because it just takes away. So for every individual, for every project, it's always going to be different. So there really is no, what is that ideal customer? The ideal customer is someone who takes your input as far as that kind of stuff goes. But I mean, as far as any kind of scenarios, it's all different. And that's why I enjoy it. There's no one the same. And when someone comes to me saying, I want what so-and-so has, I said, well, okay, but we're going to tweak it a little bit because I don't want to build the same thing over and over. So it's like I said, it's not necessarily an individual customer. It's somebody who's willing to listen to your expertise and follow along as you provide them with what it is they want, this dream pool or this dream backyard, whatever the case is, and explaining to them how we go from start to finish and what we need from them and how to keep things moving. And honestly, like we said already, decision-making. It's always the problem. That's the biggest hang-up when it comes to jobs. So as long as we can have customers understand that decision-making drives the project, then that's an ideal customer, one that understands that. But, like I said, everyone's an individual. There's no one thing.
So, Danilo, if somebody were to call Casey or you, we're going to put the links below for both of you guys. What should they have prepared or considered before they even reach out to you guys?
Well, making sure that the project that they envision, it's actually technically possible. Yeah. They have to be ready that, understanding that technically sometimes certain things is just not doable because of the code or because of the space or because of the ground.
Maybe on a hill. Or
whatever it is.
Because of the natural challenges, because the environment, but also certain things are just not possible. Yeah. So today, obviously, way more things are doable than 50 years ago because of the chemistry, the techniques, the materials changed, and we have, a bigger spectrum of materials to choose from. But still, there are challenges. As long as they understand that their expectations can be met or something similar, but needs to be modified a little bit, then we're good. Then we just sit down and try to understand what they would like. And then we start thinking about it and try to put a little spin, a little something unique, because it's always fun and beautiful to create something that you've never seen before or that you haven't done before. So it's a little more challenge, but also brings you satisfaction at the end. It's just, way more interesting to do something a little different every time. And again, the client needs to understand that we are creating a team, and he's part of this team. He's a key player in the success of the project. So as long as he wants to collaborate with us in making it a success, we're fine. If right out of the bat, there's kind of like, some sort of like disconnection or not understanding that we are all trying to take each other by the hand and walk in the same path to reach the same goal, then it could be a problem. That's the most important thing.
Pretty straightforward. Casey, what trends are you currently seeing in the pool design, outdoor living, backyard builds that people should be aware of?
More clean lines, more timeless looks, things like that. We've done numerous, let's call them ultra modern type looking jobs. But again, it goes with the atmosphere. Is the house super modern? Is it a timeless house? I try to explain to customers, especially if it's a new house, let's make it blend. Yeah. If it's an existing home and it's a nice timeless look, you don't want an ultra modern swimming pool.
Correct.
So, certain things like that. But the clean lines, neutral colors, especially surrounding the pool. We've been doing a lot more darker finishes, a lot of black, dark grays. They're, in my opinion, I think they're gorgeous. Obviously, doing the tile pools with Danilo, it's just a whole nother world and a whole nother look. But again, it's got to fit. You've got to make it, and Danilo's phenomenal at doing that as well, and instructing or working with the customer, saying, "Hey, listen, let's try to make things flow. Let's try to make them work with the surrounding area. You don't want to just come in and throw something that's completely off." Correct. Because again, it's not a cheap investment, and at the end of the day, you don't want to be unhappy with it, 2 years later. But the clean lines, the neutral colors, some of the darker finishes or darker tiles within the swimming pool, a lot of stuff we're seeing now. More, not really doing so many like the free form type shapes. A lot of times, what people don't understand about them is they look nice, and most people are happy with them for the first few years because it's just different. It's new. But then it starts to fade. And there's also, again, there's just other aspects to them where you have to, like with lighting and other things like that, where you have to make sure everything is set up so you don't have these dark, shadowy areas. But listen, if we're doing a job on the side of a hill, in the middle of the woods, sometimes that freeform look, it's perfect. Yeah. It blends with the surroundings. And that's really what it comes down to, is just trying to make everything blend with what it is surrounding it. And as long as, you see eye to eye, it's very easy to get somebody to, understand and get that perfect, ideal, look. But I'm a big believer in sometimes more is less, less is more, where it's like, if you keep it simple, if we get Danilo in there, it's obviously a different story. We want that pool to be, that's the showstopper. Yeah. And for any other regular backyards, what I like to kind of go with is more, you want to see it as a whole package. You don't want to walk in and just see the pool. You don't want to lose everything else, especially if you're doing a full backyard where you have outdoor living spaces, you have patio and gardens and everything else. And then all of a sudden there's almost like this eyesore of like a swimming pool right in the middle of all of that. It doesn't work, well. And then, like I said, within a few years, your taste is going to change. The trends do change. And all of a sudden you're stuck with this now. But big thing is like, for many years, it was always the red brick, pool coping.
Yeah.
And from there was those blue porcelain tiles. That was just the look. That was a very, West Coast look for many years that obviously made its way here. But nowadays, like I said, simple, neutral colors, and make that whole backyard pop, not just the pool.
Love it. Before we wrap up, how far in advance should homeowners contact you guys, especially for seasonal builds, larger projects?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, to be honest, 1 year for the next, Yeah. I mean, obviously there's permits, there's the whole engineering that takes a little bit, modifications that take a little bit.
Design.
So, the design and everything, just few months go by. And then, again, local permits, everything else. Excavations, setting up, schedule, and we don't do one project at a time. I mean, I do one project at a time, but within the year I have another 5-6 projects. So everything has to be put in place and aligned.
And then you rely on the builder to be on time.
Yeah, exactly. So
no pressure, right?
like you wanna have your swim pool, making sure that everything is ready to go by June. End of May or June, ideally the summer before.
Agreed.
Will be the ideal situation. And it's almost late already, but by the beginning of the summer, like, okay, listen, we have this swimming pool. What can we do with it? Then we start the conversation. We start planning everything else, and then setting up, the initial plans done by September, October, submitting everything, asking for permits, and then starting construction. And then obviously there's the weather challenge, and in a swimming pool like mine, protecting your investment is the most important thing. So if it's an outdoor pool and we need to do installation in the spring is one thing, everything has to be protected anyway with a tent at least to keep the water and the sunlight out of the surface itself. But if it's in wintertime, and it happened many times here, like 4 or 5 times here in New Jersey, I did projects in wintertime because just needed to be done in that time frame. I have a whole structure built around the pool, heated. I keep it 68 degrees inside. And yes, it's expensive, but you want to protect $1 million, $2 million pools. That's what you have to do. You have to invest those 30, 40, 50 grand for a few months in the wintertime to allow me to work in it. I'm working properly, making sure that the epoxy materials that I'm using are drying properly with no temperature swings or freezing or rain. That's what you have to do.
Wow, amazing.
It's the same. It's the same for us though too. I mean, you gotta, Danilo nailed most of it. The other problem is you have to think: is this a new house? Is this just a swimming pool? Is this a simple patio going in? Is it going to be a new house, new pool, new patio, new cabana, outdoor kitchen? Is there this? Whatever the list grows, the time is going to grow as well as to how long it's going to take. Because when new construction starts, especially with a house being involved on the lot, you have access issues. Yeah. You have timing issues between getting a house to a certain point, then having the time where, okay, now we don't need to be driving big machinery around anymore. Right. Now the pool guy can come in to do what he's got to do. So on top of getting all those permits, every design, everything else in place, you have to see what is the big picture.
Correct.
Obviously the more simple a project, typically the quicker we can get things in and done. But once you start adding to that scope of what's happening around on that property, your time frame is definitely going to become longer because there's just so much more to do. There's utilities and additional work and this and that. So you have to be prepared, depending on what type of project it is you're doing.
Awesome. Well, if you guys want to give closing statements, we're going to drop a link below for both these gentlemen. If you want to say just some closing statement.
It was just a pleasure to be here. First time getting to jump on a podcast, have this conversation. Again, love working with Danilo. So, the more work we could get together, I think the more fun he and I get to have together too. So I get to learn more from him as well.
I think it's your third podcast on the show. If you want to give your final statement.
Always a pleasure. Always interesting. Always nice to collaborate with people that have the same kind of mindset that I do. Casey is definitely one of those. Looking forward to the next project with him, and also, giving a little bit of education, which is very important. A lot of people don't even know what a mosaic is or the history behind it, how we got here, in 2026, pretty much. It's a very ancient tradition that comes from my area in Europe and the Middle East, and it's evolving. New scopes, new horizons, and it started just to celebrate ancient religions, and today is used in everyday living. So it's interesting to see how where we can go with it. So it's always good.
Love it. See you next time. New Theory Podcast signing off.